Alrighty, welcome back to AP Environmental Science Unit 1, Introduction to Ecosystems. We're going to be looking in this video, video 8, primary productivity. Now, when we look at primary productivity, we break it down into two types of productivity. We have gross primary productivity and net primary productivity, usually labeled as GPP and NPP. The gross primary productivity is the rate at which an ecosystem's producers can convert solar energy to chemical energy and biomass. So when we think of productivity, we're thinking of producers, which hopefully makes sense. Producers are able to convert solar energy into chemical energy that we can then use or animals can use. Now we measure this in kilocalories per meter squared per year. So you can think if you took a meter squared area and looked at how many kilocalories were made in that area every year, that would be the GPP. So this is the total amount that's made. The net primary productivity is a little bit different because you take the gross primary productivity and you subtract the amount that the producers themselves are using for their own aerobic respiration, because producers do in fact have respiration and need respiration to be able to use energy to build and live and make more. So it's important to understand that when you take that gross primary productivity, the total amount of productivity, minus the amount that's used by the plants themselves, you get a net primary productivity. And that is a total amount of productivity that can then be used by other species. Typically, we'll talk about food webs and food chains, consumers. Now, when we talk about different ecosystems and different life zones like biomes, that is going to be what's going to change on the net primary productivity. So in this example here, this is the estimated annual average net primary productivity in different life zones and ecosystems. So you can see here the different life zones or biomes gives us a good idea of how much productivity exists. So how much energy is being created on in those producers. So you see swamps and marshes, rainforests, forests. These are very productive. Agricultural land is not nearly as productive as some of these, so it's important that we know that, but it is fairly productive because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be able to get food from there. And then obviously desert and desert scrub and tundra, these are not very productive at all when we're talking about the terrestrial ecosystems. Now, aquatic ecosystems are a little bit different. Estuaries are huge. They're the most productive. Lakes and streams, fairly productive, about as productive as a temperate grassland in the NPP. The continental shelf and then the open ocean is the lowest. Now, what's important for us to understand is the open ocean is actually where you get the majority of the net primary productivity in the world, even though it has the lowest amount of net productivity per meter squared. The reason for that is because there's a lot of ocean. Now, when we look at photosynthesis in the ocean, most red light is absorbed in the upper 1 meter of water. Blue light makes it about 100 meters in the clearest amount of water. And this is what affects the photosynthesis in aquatic ecosystems because they have to have the ability to take that light and convert it. And it's really important for us to understand this because this is why you get those areas where we have, the benthic zone and the abyssal zone where light can no longer penetrate. If there's no light there, then there is not going to be nearly as much or any primary productivity. And we can actually see that as you get down in meters, 10 to 33 meters, you lose 50% of the amount of light. But there's only 50% available now. Just going down another 20 meters or 66 feet. These are feet, these are meters. Another 20 meters, so twice as much. You lose another half, and then another 10 meters or another 33-ish feet, you lose another half of the amount. So it does go down by half at each depth. So it's really important to understand that because you're not going to see a lot of producers deep in water. And that's what creates those zones in the open ocean and in lakes. So that is going to be the end of this video for the 8th video. Our next video will be sections 9 through 11. And we'll talk about trophic levels, energy flow, and the 10% rule, and food chains and food webs.